Out of bounds for many years, now a former war zone in Sri Lanka finds itself back on the tourist map. On this week's Fast Track, we report on a controversial new tourist initiative in Sri Lanka.
War memorabilia is preserved, in the war museum and all that. Even Tamil Sinhalese, everybody can see what actually happened.
Join me later in the programme in Johannesburg to find out what's moving in the art world.
And later on the Fast Track Travel Clinic, the airline postpones your flight by a day. What are your rights? And can you nip out to the pub between flights at Heathrow?
Hello and welcome to Fast Track. I'm Fiona Foster. Thank you for joining us. Now, with its beaches, green hills and tea plantations, Sri Lanka has long been a popular destination for foreign tourists. Even its long ethnic war in the north and east of the country didn't put people off visiting other parts of the island. Now that war itself, which ended in great bloodshed 3 years ago, has given rise to a new and controversial form of tourism, in which most tourists are themselves Sri Lankan. We sent Charles Haviland to investigate.
Into this Sri Lankan jungle, the tourists are piling by the dozen. But the attraction here in the northeast is not temples or ruined royal cities or the wonders of nature, as in the rest of the island. Instead, it is remnants of Asia's longest modern war, which pitted the separatist Tamil Tigers, purporting to speak for the Tamil ethnic minority, against the army, overwhelmingly from the Sinhala majority. Here the tourists have come to see a bunker built by the feared Tiger leader, the late Velupillai Prabhakaran, as a hideout. It looks like a bungalow, but goes no fewer than 4 stories deep underground.
He
was operating on such a strong basis, he even aimed to capture Sri Lanka. But because of our heroic soldiers, our President and Defence Secretary, we're living in peace now. We're grateful to them.
Sinhalese families like his have come from villages in the south. It's not formally organised or promoted by the authorities. Instead, they club their money together to take a bus, buy food, rent a guest house, and come on a sort of secular pilgrimage to see how the rebels lived. Their lookout points, their shooting range with mock soldiers for target practice.
War tourism has become quite an industry here in post-war Sri Lanka. Visitors come mainly from within the country or they're people of Sri Lankan descent. You can't fail to see them when you come to the northern part of the island. And they can see a string of sensitive wartime sites, mostly linked to the vanquished Tamil Tigers. They're thickest on the ground here in Mullaitivu district, which was the final redoubt of the Tigers before they went to a crushing defeat in 2009.
The sites are all run by the army. Unusually, this Sinhalese soldier speaks fluent Tamil, the language of the north, and of this group of visitors, which includes schoolchildren from war-ravaged areas not far away. It's clear that a fair and perhaps growing number of the tourists are indeed Tamil people, either living in Sri Lanka or now based abroad but here on a visit. Some lived through Tiger separatist rule or the horrors of the wartime violence. So it's remarkable that most signs are in Sinhala only, with a little English and no Tamil. To many, that seems to say to Tamils, this isn't really your country, one of the damaging attitudes that they would say triggered the horrific war decades ago. Indeed, some say this war tourism is ethnic majority post-war triumphalism. I wanted to put that to this Sinhalese Sri Lankan who now lives in Australia.
Their war memorabilia is preserved, in the war museum and all that. Even Tamil Sinhalese, everybody can see what actually happened and they can judge by themselves, like what they want to think. So rather than, hiding them away from people, it's good for them to decide, leave them to decide what actually happened,
Some of the Tamil tourists we met, including those who also now live overseas, appear to agree with this, like this woman who's lived in Germany 25 years.
We're very happy to see this. We didn't really know what happened here. We only saw it on television. If you come here, you can see the ideas they had, the engineering skills and the way they use their brains. We don't know what suffering they went through, but it's interesting to see this.
Perhaps the strangest tourist site is this ship, a Jordanian vessel impounded by the Tigers in 2006 and then used by them as a base and a supply of metal for their war machine. The army only took it 4 days before the war ended in 2009.
We all came together to see what happened during the war. We've come to this part of the country for the first time in 30 years. Earlier, we didn't have the chance to do that.
The tourists here were all Sinhalese, but the attitude we met was not triumphalism or gloating, just intense curiosity, even a measure of admiration for the dead rebel leader.
I think this is a very harmful thing he did for our country, the Prabhakaran, but I think he's a very talented man. He had good knowledge, but he didn't use his knowledge to develop our country or something. He's a Sri Lankan, but he didn't use his knowledge to develop our country.
But it is disturbing that to get to places like the ship, tourists go through areas utterly devastated in the army's final offensive against the guerrillas, in which thousands of civilians died. The tourists flow in, while many local Tamil people cannot yet return home. Ordinary tourism involving beaches, for instance, barely exists. But one day it may do, at places like this one. This Tamil family are enjoying the sea at Mullaitivu, the small town adjoining the final battle zone. Half of them live nearby, half in Germany. Their emotions are mixed. 15-year-old Satya, visiting Sri Lanka for the first time, is terribly sad at the destruction, but feels visitors are well treated.
The armies are not so bad. They smile and speak with us. Yesterday they come and make a photo with us, and it's okay.
Her cousin is less happy.
It's very sad to see. It's a Tamil area, and all the boards are in Sinhala and English, and nothing in Tamil language. Overall, Tamils don't see these places happily. When they see these places, they feel sad. It's mainly Sinhalese and foreign visitors who see it.
It may be seen by many as premature so soon after the end of the fighting, but war tourism in northern Sri Lanka is booming. Most foreigners can now visit most of the region without restrictions, and the authorities would like to draw them in too, to experience a place that most until now would have seen as anything but a tourist destination.
Charles Haviland reporting from Sri Lanka. And as ever, we'd love to hear what you think of that report and what you think of how tourism is now being promoted in those places which were once completely off the travel trail. You can email us at our usual address, which is on the screen now, or why not sign up to our Facebook page and leave your comments by following the link on our website, which you'll find at bbc.com/fasttrack. Time now, though, for a look at what else is making news in the world of travel this week. Here's Mike London.
In California, as many as 10,000 people who visited Yosemite National Park recently may have been exposed to the deadly respiratory disease HPS. Authorities there are warning anyone who stayed in the Boys Town area tent lodgings between mid-June and late August to be on the lookout for flu-like symptoms. The incubation period for the virus, which is carried by rodents, can be up to 6 weeks, and early diagnosis can increase the chance of survival. Local businesses are counting the costs after forest fires on Spain's Costa del Sol forced thousands to evacuate their homes. Areas around Marbella were the most affected, including some of Spain's most popular holiday destinations. The country is suffering the worst drought in decades, and wildfires have affected other regions of Spain this summer, including the Canary Islands and northern Catalonia. And if you're travelling to Brussels soon, it might pay to mind your manners while you're there. City authorities in the Belgian capital have introduced new fines of up to $250 for anyone trading insults or jostling other pedestrians on the street. The mayor says he wants to crack down on the everyday unpleasantness found in any big city.
That's it for now, but don't go away, because coming up, Simon's here with his advice on where you stand legally if you find yourself stuck on an airport layover for 17 hours through no fault of your own.
Join me later in the programme in the city of Johannesburg, where young emerging artists as well as the old masters are showing their work.
Hello and welcome to the Fast Track Travel Clinic with me, Simon Calder. And let's start with a question from Lawrence Brooke from Bristol in the west of England. He's off to South America soon, beginning his journey in the venue for the next Summer Olympics, Rio de Janeiro, host city in 2016. But after Rio, Lawrence wants to travel on to Bolivia and Peru. He wonders,
is it best to book the flights now in the UK, or will we be able to get them cheaper if we booked in Brazil when we arrive?
your itinerary includes some of the very best of South America, Lawrence, from the sultry beaches of Rio to the otherworldly Altiplano high in Bolivia, plus, of course, the Inca heritage in Peru. But please plan all your air travel in advance. A good agent should be able to come up with a competitive price for the whole trip. If you leave it until you arrive in Brazil, you'll probably find fares have risen sharply. And frankly, there are better ways to spend your time in Rio than trying to source some good value flights. Paris in the spring attracted Alex Hewitt-Jones, who has the good fortune to reside in the British Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. He and his partner decided to travel to the French capital for Easter. They booked the necessary Caribbean hops to the island of Saint-Martin on Liat and separately the transatlantic flights on Air France. What could possibly go wrong? Well,
in March, Air France said our return flight had been rescheduled for the following day. It took me several hours and a couple of $100 to change our other bookings. I called Air France to seek some compensation, without success.
Alex, it's one of the great iniquities of air travel that if a passenger changes or cancels a trip, they're likely to lose hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But airlines can make changes without penalty, as Air France did, blaming operational difficulties. However, had you booked the trip as a single transaction, you'd have been in a much stronger position. Then, if one airline changes its schedule, you can expect to be rebooked on appropriate flights at no extra charge. From the many messages we receive here at the Travel Clinic, I estimate that each year Fast Track viewers collectively spend, or waste, many millions of hours at airports around the world waiting for connecting flights. Paul Klossick from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia has just got married in the fine South African city of Cape Town. His parents travelled out from the UK to the wedding via Istanbul with Turkish Airlines. The connection was scheduled to last 7 hours, but
the layover was extended by a further 10 hours, meaning they were sat in the departure lounge for a total of 17 hours. What compensation are they entitled to?
Paul, first of all, congratulations to you and your bride. Next, I'm sorry your parents endured such a long wait in Istanbul, but I'm afraid they can expect no compensation. EU rules on the duty of care that airlines must offer apply only to the start of the journey, not to transit stops outside Europe. Finally, Martin Edwards from Ghana's capital, Accra, is travelling from Austria to Africa via Heathrow Airport here in London with a 6-hour connection. He wonders,
I have some friends in London. I'd like to leave the airport for a couple of hours to meet them for a drink. I have a valid UK visa. Will immigration procedures allow me to do so?
Martin, unless your inbound flight is delayed or the queues for passport control are shockingly long, there should be no problem. While the airlines might prefer every transit passenger to stay put, you're at liberty to leave the airport while your baggage is transferred as normal. British immigration officials are likely to be amused by your planned length of stay rather than concerned. Whether you're after ideas for how to spend transit time or you seek a vacation bargain, just email fasttrack@bbc.com and I'll do my very best to find you an answer. From me, Simon Calder, bye for now and see you next time.
Thank you, Simon. Now, to finish today, let's turn to the art world. There's renewed vitality surrounding the contemporary art scene in South Africa, with galleries popping up across the country and new neighbourhoods becoming creative enclaves. On September the 7th, the FNB Johannesburg Art Fair, now in its 5th year, opens at the Sandton Convention Centre. It's not just a market for buying and selling contemporary art, it's also a place where visitors can explore the region's trends, as Michelle Yanachan now reports.
From painting to photography, installation art to video, there's a buzz around the contemporary art scene here. A strengthening community of artists is seeking and swiftly securing representation, with buyers from all over the world showing interest in their work. There's been an increase in demand and in the prices of African art right across the continent. But it's South Africa that's one of the pioneering destinations, and Johannesburg has become an epicenter for artists and for galleries.
I think that what makes our particular little country produce such interesting art that people are finding fascinating is that art is the window into the soul of the nation. And that provides artists with a tremendous canvas to play upon. They can analyze the cultural aspects, the burgeoning population, where we fit in Africa.
The pride is palpable. The city's art, which once focused primarily on the struggles during the apartheid era, is now tackling other questions too.
There are wonderful art schools in this country, wonderful art foundations who are sort of doing really fantastic things in uplifting our sort of visual arts in this country. So yes, without doubt, I mean in the last sort of decade, the quality of contemporary art really has come up hugely.
South African art has started to become more prominent internationally. So often they've heard of Kentridge or Irma Stern, they've heard about auctions, but in terms of contemporary artists and younger artists, they don't know much. And so they're like, wow, and is there more?
Johannesburg, the financial juggernaut of the continent, is also creating new districts in the city where vibrant artistic communities can come together to work and live. Jonathan Liebman is the founder of Mabenong Precinct, a mixed-use property development downtown. What was an area of vacant and dilapidated warehouses is now becoming a collection of artist studios, creative office spaces and an art hotel. It comes on the back of his first development, Arts on Main.
It started off with an arts influence, and that our first major tenants were galleries and artist studios, etc. But I think what it's really proven, like art has done in many other regenerated areas across the world, is that art can actually become the catalyst for regeneration. So it's moved on from not just being about art, but being about innovation and design and entrepreneurship and urbanism.
Locals say that Liebman has completely changed the atmosphere in this area of the inner city. There's a permanent community here of over 1,000 residents and office workers, and over 4,000 visitors each week. Some of those are from out of town, and some are from out of country. Liebman says he hopes he's creating a new destination for tourists too.
I think it's just the opportunity for tourists to engage with the city of Johannesburg in a safe environment. We've got security across all of the precinct, and we've actually proven that this area is a lot safer than the suburbs of Johannesburg. So it's a way for those tourists to engage with the authenticity of the city.
Some of South Africa's best contemporary art galleries are here, including the studio of William Kentridge, David Krutt Publishing and the Goethe Institute. There's a real sense that South Africa's contemporary art scene has come of age, and gallery owners are keenly taking up their role to expose the region's talents, attracting collectors and investors from around the world.
And that's it for this week. Thanks very much for joining us on our travels. Hope you've picked up a few tips and some good advice along the way, perhaps. And don't forget, you can always check in with us at our website. That's bbc.com/fasttrack. And from there, if you'd like to connect with travellers from all over the world, you can follow the link to our Facebook and Twitter accounts. But from me, Fiona Foster, and the rest of the Fast Track team, happy travels and goodbye.